The overarching intention of the bill, as colleagues will be aware, is to embed a culture of open disclosure in our health and in our social services. However, it is fair to say that many aspects of this bill have been informed by the very serious learnings from what happened with cervical check. This includes the need to ensure accountability by service providers and clinicians in carrying out open disclosure to patients and to their families. In that regard, the bill and its intended outcomes can be viewed as an important part of the legacy of reform and transformation arising from the issues in 2018 and how these have been addressed. I flagged at committee stage of the bill that I'd be introducing an amendment at report stage to ensure that open disclosure applies to completed patient-requested reviews of cancer screening. The approach that we're taking here is based on the report of the expert reference groups, that report in 2020 into interval cancers. This was the group that was set up following on from the report by Dr. Scally. It was deemed appropriate to follow the group's recommendations regarding individual patient-requested reviews as providing the basis for open disclosure provisions. The amendment I'm presenting today is quite a lengthy document and it comprises 21 sections. This is necessary to provide full provision for mandatory open disclosure for patient-requested reviews of cancer screening, and these are similar to the provisions already in the bill for mandatory open disclosure of notifiable incidences. This amendment, Chair, will ensure that open disclosure applies to completed patient-requested reviews of cancer screening. This is key, and this is one of the substantial amendments that we're discussing this evening and that I'm bringing forward here at report stage. I'm now proposing that a patient-requested review of their cancer screening will be provided for in a new Part 5 of the bill. This will ensure that current provision for open disclosure of a notifiable incident will be replicated in the new part of the bill for open disclosure of a patient-requested review of cancer screening. All reviews will have to be disclosed, irrespective of whether there is a discordance, and this is the nub of it. All reviews must be disclosed to the patient where the patient has requested the review, and all patients where there is a cancer diagnosis, all patients will be told that they have that the patient requested review is something that is available to them. If a patient chooses that, and our understanding is that in the UK, for example, about half of patients choose that. So all patients will be informed that this is something available to them, and if they choose it, all patients then will have that disclosed. The amendment proposed provides for the insertion of a new Part 5 in the Patient Safety Bill for the purpose of providing the open disclosure of completed patient reviews, requested reviews of HSE cancer screening services. Such a review will be defined in the body of the bill and will involve similar statutory requirements to those prescribed for patient safety incidences. This includes an obligation to make an open disclosure of a review, procedures for making open disclosures of a completed review by the health service provider, offences similar to those already prescribed in the bill for patient safety incidences. Implementing mandatory open disclosure as provided for in this bill is intended to enable patients and families to be afforded the opportunity to understand what went wrong and receive an apology where appropriate. And Chair, I might just use the final time I have. I think colleagues, we've just come from a very useful discussion with officials, with the Chief Clinical Officer, and I think there's very reasonable issues have been raised. Essentially, one of them is, what would happen in the future in the case of the women affected by what happened with cervical check? And the answer is this: every single woman who has a diagnosis of cancer would be informed that there is a patient review process available to them should they want it. Every single woman would be told. There would be mandatory open disclosure of that review should the woman choose to initiate a review. The reviews have been very carefully designed with clinical experts, with international experts, and with patient advocates, patient representatives, to design a review that works for the women. So every single woman previously who did not have this option available to them would have this option available to them. I think that's the first important point. The second question being asked then is on programmatic audits, which we for many, many years now, since 2018, there was a report, the Madden Review, which said we must have these learning audits in order to constantly be improving the service for patients, constantly improving cancer detection rates, that these learning audits, which need to go on all the time, should be anonymised. There's several reasons why they should be anonymised. It's international best practice. It is the recommendation from the expert reference group. We're working very closely with the World Health Organization at the moment. We expect the WHO to be publishing a position on this shortly, and that it will be in line with anonymised programmatic audits. We know in the UK and in other jurisdictions we've looked at, anonymised audits are international best practice. Why is that? First of all, it means that the health service providers have access to all of the data. They're used right across the HSE at the moment. They're a really important learning tool in order to constantly improve care. And the second reason, I appreciate I'm out of time, I'll finish on this, Chair. The second reason is this, is that if programmatic audits were done and they were not anonymised, essentially what would be happening, which is what happened previously, is that a health service provider would be saying, we're going to take all of your information without your knowledge, without your consent. We're going to do audits on your identifiable information, which is something you did not ask for. And we know from the UK that only half of those who are offered it actually want it. So for many, you didn't ask for this, and in many cases won't have wanted it. And when discordants are found, of course then they would be disclosed, as they should be to the patient.
You have a further 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Wrap up
And
as
so,
well,
and thank you very much for your indulgence, Chair, and I'll finish on this. And so essentially what we're saying is have best international practice, anonymised programmatic audits, so that our screening services can get better and better and better. And then for every single patient where there is a cancer diagnosis, they must be offered a review which has been created to work for the patient. And what this bill does is it says the results of that must be disclosed to the patients. My view, Chair, is that this works for patients, and it puts Ireland as one of the few countries in the world who are putting the patient and the patient voice front and centre in terms of these requested reviews. Thank you.